All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. So today's career chat is with a financial advisor, with myself, and this is specifically for the business path. Okay, so a little about myself, right? Job title, I am a financial advisor. My alma mater, I went to Cal State, Los Angeles, and I majored in business administration. And when you major in business, you have to pick an emphasis. So there's accounting, human resources, economics, finance, management, marketing, real estate, and sometimes they do like entrepreneurship or e-commerce at some schools. I chose finance. So I've been working for about 11 years, ever since I was 16. I've been doing this job, part-time and as my second job for the past 3 years. And then my childhood dream job was a mechanical engineer. I thought I wanted to be an engineer, but I went to school and tried it and I didn't necessarily like it. And I didn't think it was for me after all. But I eventually saw a career counselor at my school and he kind of helped me decide what I wanted to do with the rest of my life and my career. And we narrowed it down to finance. And I don't have any regrets whatsoever choosing that major. Okay, so what does it take to be a financial advisor? First things first is you need a sponsorship from a brokerage. That is very easy to get. These types of advising jobs, people aren't competing for them like other jobs you guys are going to apply for. They're really looking for people. They always are. There's a huge necessity for advisors, and our country honestly does not have enough of them. So if you're looking to get a sponsorship from a brokerage, it's fairly easy. You just have to, it's as easy as submitting a job application and passing the background check is pretty much the easiest way to get a sponsorship. As long as you don't have any criminal history, you're absolutely fine. Second, what it takes to be a financial advisor, you need investment licenses. The insurance and securities industries are very heavily regulated. So you need to have competent, qualified people working with investments, right? Because we're planning people's future, their retirement, we're handling large sums of money. So you need to pass your license exams. Third, you need to have great communication skills. You definitely need to be extroverted. You definitely need to be a social butterfly and have a passion for conversating and speaking with people. It's a huge aspect of this job. I literally get paid just to speak. So yeah, definitely got to work on those great communication skills. And when I was in high school, I wasn't an effective communicator, so it was something I definitely had to work on and something I definitely developed. Another thing, you have to be very coachable, right? You have to be a good student. You have to be very receptive. You have to, the way for you to learn as an advisor is the more seasoned veterans, the more seasoned advisors on top of you, they're the ones that train the new people. So you definitely have to be respectful. You have to be approachable. You have to be coachable, because these seasoned veterans have years and years of experience. So you have to be, very responsive, and you have to be very respectful for the advice that they have, worked through the trenches for.
Luis,
yes.
I think there are a couple people in the wait room. Would you mind checking that real quick? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Of course. 1 sec.
I could be host if you need me to.
Please.
Thank you, Daisy.
And I think that's everyone.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Were you able to make Daisy the host, Luis?
Oh, give me 1 sec. Where do I do that?
So go to participants and then hover over Daisy where it says more. Click and it should let you make her the host.
Got it.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, Daisy. I'm sorry to interrupt your presentation.
No worries. Right. So for the students that are just joining us, please make sure to sign into the sign-in sheet. And I just covered some basic info about myself and then what it takes to be an advisor. So we talked about you need a sponsorship from a brokerage, which is very easy. All you need to do is submit a job application, submit a resume. You need your licenses. And then above all, you need your soft skills, communication skills, ability to accept failure and learn from it. That's a huge aspect of this job. Even when you give like this amazing presentation to someone and you talk about how they can grow their money and you talk about investments and retirement, some people are still going to be skeptical and tell you no. So you have to be able to take that on the chin and just keep on moving forward. Failure is a huge part of this job. So you have to be fearless when approaching new people. In order for you to expand your book of business, in order to acquire more clients, you have to be fearless. You have to have conversations. You have to be able to go up to people that you do not know and strike conversations, because that is the key aspect to growing your business. And then lastly, you have to be open to learning from mentors. Like I said, the more seasoned veterans, the more seasoned financial advisors are the people who train the younger and the incoming advisors. So you definitely should look for mentors, right? They're full of wisdom, full of experience. I highly encourage you to get at least a couple mentors in your life, because they will show you a lot. So next slide. All right, I'm going to talk about the certifications that I have and the ones required to do this job. So first, you need your resident insurance license. That is your license to sell life insurance. It is about, I would say, like a 70-question exam, and you need at least a D to pass it, 60%. That is probably the easiest exam to pass. And when you are sponsored at a brokerage, they pay for all of your exams. Okay, so first license, life insurance. Second license is your Series 63. All right, this encompasses more of like laws and regulations that you have to follow when you're doing business inside a specific state. It's a lot of trick questions. This was probably the toughest exam out of the 3 that I have taken. So it did take me quite a while to study. Third license, Series 6 license. This is so you can start working with mutual funds and investments and annuities. It basically encompasses like suitability, like what product or financial product or investment vehicle does this client need? And you have to be competent and you have to pass that test. The Series 63 and Series 6, you have to pass with at least like a C, kind of like at OFY and OFL, 70% for everything. So you need those 3 key licenses to be a registered agent in the state of California. And the 4th one that I'm going for is my loan license, coming soon, not required. But after I acquire this license, I will be able to refinance mortgages and loans. Okay. And then lastly, I am registered to do business in 5 states: California, Nevada, Texas, Oregon, and Washington. So you're probably wondering, why am I registered to do business in so many states? It's because of Corona, to be honest with you. Because of Corona, a lot of my clients moved out of state, purchased new homes, they moved. So with them moving, my business had to move as well. So it's very easy. You just have to get registered in that state to do business. You cannot do business if you are not registered. It's very illegal, highly against the law. So I need to make sure before I, want to do business in another state, I got to make sure that I'm registered as a securities agent in that state. And right here, this little link right here, it's Broker Check. So this is the website by FINRA. And this is like the central location where you can look up an agent's record or if they exist. So, here's my name, here's my CRD number, how many years I've been in the business. And then you can see here, right, the time that I've been in the business. Just as a rule of thumb, right, if you ever sit down with someone who claims to be a financial advisor, ask them, are you investment licensed? And if so, can you please show me your broker check page? Because a lot of people will try to pawn themselves or try to sell themselves as being, investment professionals or financial advisors, when in reality, they might only just have a life insurance license. And that does not qualify them to work with investments. You're not a financial advisor. There are a lot of very bad investment vehicles out there. So be wary of people who try to come to you with, these products that are just too good to be true. So as a rule of thumb, if you ever sit down with an advisor or an agent, you should ask them, are you investment licensed? And if so, please show me your your broker check page. Okay. To describe the work that you do, what does a regular day look like for you? Okay, the vast majority of my job is speaking and talking. A fraction of my job is I'm on the phone with other financial institutions. So I have a lot of clients, when they leave their job or they retire, they have money in a retirement account and they need to move it, or they need to allocate it to a different investment, or they want to start taking money out. So that means that I have to get on the phone with these different financial institutions and submit paperwork, submit requests. I do a lot of rollovers where you roll funds in one account to another one. So a lot of my job is making phone calls, but a big lion's share of my job is sitting down with my clients. I don't necessarily have an office. I have a little office space in my room that I use, but the vast majority of my work is in people's homes. I go over to my client's house and I have in-person meetings with them. And I usually like to have them in their homes. Why? Because they always have access to all of their required documents. They keep their check stubs, they keep their socials, they keep their IDs, they keep their gas and electric bills there so we can calculate their budget. From time to time, I will have to meet someone in like a library or a Starbucks if they don't have like an adequate place for us to meet, or I will just invite them to my house. But I always want to make them feel comfortable. And if it's possible to do the appointment at their house, I always aim for that because they are the most comfortable there. So yeah, vast majority of my job is just talking. I love talking. I like to converse, and why not get paid for talking if you're good at it, right? Okay. So what inspired me to become an advisor? Before I move on to these points, I'll just say that when I was studying finance, I discovered that I had a profound passion for finance. I just love numbers and learning about stocks. I was infatuated with looking at spreadsheets and analyzing the data, and I would be able to tell you a story about that data. What do these numbers mean? So aside from being, like a research geek and having a profound passion for finance, 95% of Americans retire broke at age 65, right? Most people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan, right? About 40% of Americans spend up to half their monthly income on debt payments. 40 million students owe 1.4 trillion in student loans, and about 30% of them are past due. And then here's a big one: $12 trillion is getting 0 to 1.5%. And what I mean by that is there's about $12 trillion sitting in people's bank accounts, in their savings account, that is earning less than 1%. Because your bank pays you approximately like 0.02%, which is pennies. You earn a few pennies a year on that, while they use that money to loan it out in credit cards and home loans, and they loan it back to you with ridiculous interest rates. So yeah, 12 trillion is sitting there, hardly making any money, while the S&P 500 has averaged 17% over the last 10 years, right? The S&P 500 are the largest 500 companies in the stock exchange, right? These are huge companies, right? Like Tesla, Apple, a lot of oil companies, a lot of finance companies. So what inspired me to become an advisor? I love helping people. I love mentoring them. I love teaching about finance. But more importantly, there is a huge necessity for my services. We do not have enough advisors in this country, and it's pretty tough. It's a pretty tough industry because it's commission-based salary only. You don't go and clock in from 8 to 5 and then you get a payroll check. You're an independent contractor, so you only get paid as much as the time and hard work that you put in. So like I said, there is a huge necessity for our services. The vast majority of people who own like mom and pop shops don't have any retirement set up. They're just working till they die. So I found that there is absolutely a huge market for this. And even people from, their own respective professions, they might be great at their profession, but you wouldn't be surprised how many people, need a lot of help managing their debt and their finances, and how much they don't know about investments. And it's not because they're not intelligent, it's because a lot of people are just malinformed. So I feel that there's a huge necessity for these types of services. And here's just, a representation of inflation, right? This is the purchasing power of a dollar from 1913 to 2017. And look how much the power of a dollar has depreciated. Just this year, we have suffered from more or less around 7% inflation. So that means that the power of your money, right? You're going to be able to buy less products in the future. When I was maybe 10 years old, a bag of chips was $1. Now they're like $2.50 for the same bag of chips. So your money loses power when you just leave it in a savings account. If you position money correctly, it will always make more money. But if you position it incorrectly, right, you're not going to make any money. It will depreciate. It'll be eaten up by inflation. So these are all concepts that I really enjoy teaching. And because of this, I found that, wow, I think a lot of people definitely need some financial services. So the basic, tell us about your journey toward becoming an advisor and what steps did you take to where you are now? So after I graduated from Cal City LA, I graduated with a bachelor's in business and finance. And right out of college, I was like, I'm going to start working for a big investment company or a bank. And that's what I did. I started working for a bank, and I just did not like the corporate structure whatsoever. It was a very cutthroat industry. And nonetheless, a lot of those banks claim that they want to help people accomplish their financial goals, and they want to champion you. When in reality, they just really want to make a profit off of you. They're not in business to help you and help you accomplish their dreams. They are in the business to earn cold hard cash and to profit from you as much as they can. So I just ethically and morally, I just did not agree with what they were doing at the bank. And the bank I was working at ended up being, suffered 2 class action lawsuits. And sometimes I still get checks from them because they underpaid us. So after I stopped working at the bank, I knew I wanted to be a financial advisor, but I had to shop around, and I started working at different brokerages. And I started learning more about this industry and how cutthroat it can be as well. I started working for a brokerage called New York Life, and they were pressuring me to do a lot of things, to sell products to people that didn't need them. They were really trying to exploit me and my network. So I didn't like it. I went to a different brokerage, and they were called Forrester's Financial Group. And I had somewhat of the same experience with them. There was huge amounts of pressure to sell products, especially to people that didn't need them. As soon as I got hired, they were like, you need to host a party with 50 people you think have money. And then they were going to send like a team of advisors to try to, acquire them as clients and just really exploit their pocketbooks. So I ended up finding a brokerage that I really fell in love with. And I'm with PFS Investments now. And not once did they ever pressure me to sell a product. Not once did they ever pressure me to hit these goals or tell me I need you to sell X amount of dollars by when. It was a great educational and learning environment. There was a lot of seasoned veterans that taught me so much. And surprisingly, there were a lot of people from different professions that left their job to become advisors. There are people in my office who were teachers. The woman that recruited me used to be my biology teacher. We have engineers. We have people that have left law. They quit being lawyers to come be advisors. Why? Because the flexibility with being, an advisor is just absolutely unparalleled. You have just so much free time. There's no 8 to 5 job where you need to clock in. You schedule appointments when you need to. You visit your clients whenever you need to, and there's just so much liberty involved. There's no corporate structure. You're your own boss. And like I said, my supervisors, they never pressure me to sell anything. They never pressure me to put my clients in a bad investment. They always encourage me. They're always teaching me. They're always, building my confidence. So that's the one thing I love about my brokerage. And that's one thing I had to learn the hard way. I had to start working at different brokerages to realize how much different each one is, and just how false the false narrative they were portraying, like that they want to help people. A lot of advisors actually take advantage of people. So that's huge. When advisors are specifically taking advantage of retirees and senior citizens, it's very common and very frequent for it to happen. So let's move on. Talk about grit. What motivates you and what do you want to give up? Let's see. What motivates me? What motivates me is that I know that people need my help. I love teaching people about finance. You know, I love doing my little presentations. And when I teach them about compound interest and how to build credit and how to manage their debt, you know, I love seeing the reactions on their faces. It blows their mind. Some things that make me want to give up is, you know, when I put on this fancy presentation for people and, you know, I feel like I killed it. Some people are still very skeptical. Some people still say no. And it is very, sometimes can be defeating because you're trying to convince these people to take better care of themselves financially and prepare for their future. And they still say no. You know, in addition to like life insurance, you know, a lot of people that have kids and homes, they're like, oh, I don't know, I'll think about it. When in reality, they absolutely need life insurance, because who will provide for their families and pay their mortgages if, God forbid, anything happens to them, but something can happen. And like I said, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. So what motivates me, right? That people need me and I feel like this is my calling. But sometimes you got to accept failure because it's a huge component of this job. What was your hardest professional obstacle to overcome? Aside from my exams, which took me about like a year and a half to study for, I think it's just being told no and failure. When I started being an advisor, you'd be surprised, but it's your own family and your friends that say no to you the most. It is. And it feels kind of like a bit of betrayal, you know. It's kind of hard to take that one on the chin when your own friends and family don't trust you, or you know, they don't appeal to it. However, I will say is that you have to keep reinforcing that idea that you're here to help and that you're not going to give up on people. And some people, it took them years to budge, but now eventually they gave in and they're my clients. And I will say it's the best financial decision that they have ever made. So that's pretty much one of the hardest obstacles I have to go through, right? Just being told no and failing. Well, that's okay, right? Some people, you can't give up on them, but you know, if you're really trying to expand your business, you got to start having those conversations and being fearless when you talk to new people and the people around you. So let's see, can you give an example of a time in your life when you had to show grit? Yeah, I think when I was taking my last exam, the Series 63, it was like one of the hardest times in my life. I just graduated college. I started working for a bank. I didn't like it. I didn't necessarily know where I was going to end up. I started studying for my exams. And then unfortunately, my dad passed away. So he passed away in November of 2018. And I was scheduled to take my exam for my last license, like the week after, 2 weeks after. So, you know, I could have used that as an excuse. I could have used that as a crutch to fail, but I didn't. And I knew that I had so much more life to live, and I wanted to do it for him. So that was when I had to like suck it up, keep studying, and then realize that there was a goal in mind, and this is something that I needed to do. So I could have put it off. I could have failed it. I could have not showed up, but instead I showed up and I passed that exam. I blew it out of the water, and I don't regret it whatsoever. And it's probably one of the best decisions I've made in my career so far. Let's see, takeaways. What life lessons has your work taught you? Right. This industry has taught me that, like I said, a lot of people are in need of financial services. A lot of people do not know how to manage their debt. A lot of people go to college and they acquire these student loans, and they're making some of the biggest financial decisions of their life when they're only 18. So I feel that there's a huge necessity for education of financial literacy. Fortunately, you guys go to WIOBA school, so we make financial literacy a requirement. But you know, my generation and a lot of the people that I went to high school, when I give them these presentations, they always say the same thing. You know, why didn't I learn this in high school? You know, why wasn't this taught to me? And I completely agree with them. And I tell them, look, it's getting a little better, but you know, it's great that you're having this meeting, because you don't want to start your investments and you don't want to start thinking about retirement when it's too late. You know, and another lesson I learned about this job is, you know, eventually I plan on doing this full time, and there's just so much flexibility with this job and so much liberty. You know, my clients live in other states, so every now and then I get to go visit them, and I get to travel from state to state and see them. You know, they refer me to their friends and family. You know, but nonetheless, I have no set schedule. I work whenever I want to. I'm really my own boss. And also at the end of the year, when I file my taxes as an independent contractor, I get to expense a lot of my expenses, you know, my meals, my gas, you know, my phone, my office, my car payment, all that gets expensed because you are an independent contractor. So that's a huge thing, right? The residual income, right? You're able to expense your business expenses, the flexibility. Although this is a commission-based salary, it has a lot of perks and a lot of pros to being in the business. And in 10 years, I see myself doing this. I see myself advising. I see myself with a huge book of business with a lot of clients. And I hope by 10 years, you know, my clients' money has grown and compounded to, you know, amounts that'll put a grin on their faces from ear to ear. And these are just some of my hobbies. So I am very active. I exercise a lot. In this top left picture, that's at Big Pine. Beautiful lake, 7 lakes actually. I highly suggest everyone going up there for a beautiful hike. I play the bass guitar avidly, great stress reliever. This middle picture is when I was in Barcelona. I love to travel and go to Europe. And then this bottom picture was when I competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament a couple weeks ago. Jiu-jitsu, it's a huge component of my life, you know, keeps me disciplined. It keeps me fit, and it's a great stress reliever. So, you know, it's not just a gym that I train at. It's definitely like a place where I build relationships, brotherhoods, and it's definitely a lifestyle. And, you know, my sensei says all the time, you know, he's from Brazil, so he's away from a lot of his friends and family. So he tells us all the time, you know, you guys are my second family. So it's good to be a part of something. And nonetheless, it's a great place for me to network and acquire new clients, right? Because a lot of people are in need of these services. And I think that sums up my presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions, anyone?
I had a quick question actually.
Sure.
I just wanted to know that well, you mentioned that you're registered in multiple states.
Mhm.
Does that mean that in the future, if you decide to like move states, those could be options and you'd still be able to have that same job that you have?
Exactly. Exactly. If I wanted to move to another state, yeah, I can definitely do business there because I'm already registered there. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, and you can be registered in all 50 states.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question too.
Yeah, go ahead.
How long did it take you to get all your licenses?
Like about, I would say like about a year and a half, but
For all of them?
everyone's different. It takes you about maybe like, it took me about maybe 3 or 4 months to study and pass each one. Some people, they've passed every single one in like a month. Me, on the other hand, it took me about a year and a half. And I'll be honest with you, I failed the series 63 like twice. And I had to take it a third time because there were a lot of trick questions and it was super hard. So everyone's different. You know, if you're a good test taker and if you have laser focus and you could just sit down and study all day, then that's great and you'll probably get through it quicker. But
Yeah.
you know, if you only have spare time every now and then to study, and if you're not like the best test taker, it might take you longer. I kind of knocked 2 birds with 1 stone. When I was studying for the exams, I had a desk job. So I sat at a desk, I had a computer all the time. And every now and then I would have downtime, like an hour or 2 to kill. So then I would just take out my exams and I would just start studying and studying and studying. So I'd be making money while I was studying. And I was very fortunate to have a job like that. Like if you're working at like as a cashier or like somewhere where you're constantly busy, you don't really have time to study. But I was fortunate to find a job where I had like a bunch of downtime and I just studied. And it was just so much worth it.
That's what's
Ali,
up.
did you?
And that's
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
you did Taekwondo, or that's what that is?
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, you did jujitsu?
Jitsu.
That's what's
Exactly.
up. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did Taekwondo when I was younger. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get back into
So
it though. I'm out of
yeah,
school.
so there's no striking in jiu-jitsu. It's just mostly chokes and arm bars and triangles.
Yeah,
It's still,
I made it up to a purple stripe
oh man.
in Taekwondo. So I got halfway and then I stopped.
Yeah. Well, you can always go back.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely going to.
Ali, did you have a question?
No, just a question that I had earlier.
Okay. Saw your hand raised. Anybody else have a question?
I have a question, Luis.
Sure,
Can we get some pro bono financial advice
of
from you?
course.
What would you say is the number one thing that high school students should do or plan for when it comes to managing their finances?
Well, first and foremost, they should start establishing credit and know how to use credit cards. If you're a beginner and you want to start, working on your credit, I suggest going to like one of your local retail stores like Target, or get a gas card, or like Barnes and Noble credit card, just like a simple one, and then start from there before you start working onto like major credit cards. And then just start learning how like the minimum payments and everything works. The better you understand credit cards, the better you will be able to like mitigate falling into a trap and like having unlimited money that's not yours and having to pay it back. A lot of my friends, have huge amounts of credit card debt. And I think that's super important to teach students, is how to like be responsible with credit cards. It's very important to have a good credit score because you need it to, buy a home or car. If you like to move out of your parents' house and rent an apartment, you need to have good credit score. A good credit score will give you a lower interest rate, right? Because that displays what type of, like how responsible you are. If you have a low credit score, it shows that you're not very responsible and you're not very good at managing money. So aside from like being able to manage your credit, I highly suggest, young people to, start learning about compound interest, start learning about the rule of 72, start learning about DCA, dollar cost averaging. If you have a 401k at your work, talk to your HR manager and ask them about it. Who manages our 401k? What's it invested in? Start asking a lot of questions. Take your credit score and your social security number are more important than all the money you have in the bank. And that's, a wise man's once told me that. A professor I had was a stockbroker as well. He told me your social security card, your number, and your credit score are very valuable and protect it with your life. Good question.
Thank you, Luis.
Anybody else have any questions? Daisy, are you speaking? I can't hear you. Or you want to put in the chat box? What about any students? Any students have any questions?
Daisy is going to ask Anna Sarah to ask the question for her.
Sure.
And then just make sure, Luis, could you, I know that some of my students logged in kind of later, like after it actually began. Can you make sure that you just kind of repeat like the Google form and how they, that they need to complete it to get credit
Definitely.
when you have a moment? Thank you.
Daisy's gonna write her question in the chat.
Sure.
For some reason, her mic is not working.
And just to let you guys know, so I put the sign-in sheet in the chat box. Make sure to sign in if you are attending. And then you can receive 1 elective unit for attending 5 chats. So make sure to ask your teacher for the assignment. and make sure to sign in on the sign-in sheet, and make sure to check in that you are specifically at this event. Okay, so Daisy says, how can students who are interested in becoming a financial advisor start now? Okay, so first of all, you need to be 18 years old. Okay. Second of all, it's very easy to get a sponsorship from a brokerage. You just have to find the brokerage that you want to work at. And like I said, check their company website, submit a job application or a resume. The brokerage that I work for, my supervisor recruited me, and she recruited me at her office, and it was very easy. I just signed a form for the background check. And then next thing you know, I was taking my classes for my life insurance exam, and your brokerage will pay for all of your licenses, Series 63, life insurance, Series 6. It's just as easy as submitting a job application and then paying for your your background check. And then I can't remember, but I think you might have to pay for your fingerprints, but they might pay for that as well. So it's very easy, to get started in this industry, because people are not competing for these jobs. They're commission-based salary. So it's not like people are fighting over these jobs, and there's a huge necessity for them. So they look to acquire people that, are extroverted, are social, that aren't afraid of failing, and they'll give anyone who walks through the door an opportunity. So let's see. Daisy also said, let's see, is the message that Luis sent the same sign sheet? Yes. Okay. I think Daisy's asking, where do you take classes? The classes for the exams. Okay, so for the life insurance exam, your brokerage will offer those classes for you. They'll put on some type of training course in-house in their office or at their facility, and you're required to complete, I think, 40 hours of a trained course to sell life insurance. And then for your Series 63 and 6, there are training modules online, kind of like at Mentum. And you have to pass all the training modules, take the practice exams, and then it basically prepares you for the exam. And like I said, the training modules, the books, the training programs, everything is covered by your brokerage. They pay for everything, because it's tough to get people licensed. It's tough for people to sit down, study, get their licenses, get them to that point. So, they cover all those expenses. So yeah, your brokerage will take care of that part. Anybody have any other questions?
I have another question.
Sure.
How flexible would you say that your schedule is? Like if you decide to take time off, is that an option?
So yeah, it's definitely an option. So look, aside from working here at OFY, right, I have a very flexible schedule. So like, let's say I was doing this full time, right? I would only work when I have meetings with my clients, or I would only work when I have to make phone calls and call these financial institutions. I go outdoors all the time. I go camping, I go to Yosemite, I go to Mammoth, and I go to places where there's no cell phone reception, and there's no phone calls up there. So if a client calls me, right, I won't be able to answer. So the way I mitigate that is I train and I educate my clients to how to manage their investments on their own if they can't reach me. And I let them know, like, hey, I'm going to be out of town, or I'm going to be, hiking in the mountains. I might not pick up. So that means my job, right, as their advisor, is to train them and educate them to make sure that they can manage their stuff on their own. Of course, I'm always going to be here, and I'm always going to be here to help, but I make sure that all my clients are prepared in case anything happens. So like, just some examples. Some of my clients call me and they're like, hey, I can't put in money in my investment this month. Can you skip it? And I'll be like, yeah, no problem. I can skip it. but more importantly, I teach them how to log on to their online account. I teach them how to skip the contributions. I teach them how to add more money to their accounts. I teach them how to track its progress and its performance and how to get their tax forms. So I make sure that my clients are, well educated. But yeah, you do have a very flexible schedule. I do make time for vacations and I do make time for going out. But above all, my clients always know that I'm here for them, but they always also know that I trained them well enough to only need me when they really need me. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see, Tiana Brown, do you need a degree to start or do you learn everything through the brokerage? Okay, you do not need a degree. I majored in finance, and although it helped with my licenses, to be honest with you, it didn't do much for me. I learned more just like, in the field, going on appointments, learning from my mentors, learning from the seasoned veterans in the office that have trained me. I've learned more in these past couple of years, working in the field and learning from my mentors, more knowledge than I ever did in college. So I'm not saying that college was, a waste of time or money. I love being a student. I love, being in a classroom and the social aspect. And I learned so much about finance. It gave me a good base to work from, and it kind of gave me direction. But to answer your question, Tiana, you don't need a degree. It's just anybody who's willing to walk in through the door and give it a shot. It's either going to be the greatest opportunity of your life, or it's going to be something that you just tried and you didn't like. So yeah, to answer your question, you learn everything in the trenches, in the field, being told no, having conversations, trainings, learning from other people, going to conventions. It's one of those things where you can have very little money and start a business, because technically I have my own consulting business. If you wanted to start a restaurant or if you wanted to start a business, you need large sums of money, to buy merchandise, to rent an office space. It takes huge amounts of money. To start my career as a financial advisor, it cost me like $125. That's it. And my brokerage paid for all my licenses and I had to meet them halfway. They told me, hey, we'll prepare you. We'll give you all the training courses, all the books, but you got to meet us halfway and you got to study and pass those exams. So do you need a high school diploma? Yes, you do need a high school diploma in order to be an advisor. And like I said earlier, you cannot have any, late parking tickets, any warrants, any felonies, right? We need people that have absolutely no criminal record working with finances. It's a very highly regulated industry, finance and insurance. Very competent, responsible people managing people's future. Thanks for that, Megan. Let's see. Daisy says, how did you meet who recruited you? Was it because of your education work experience or work? So the woman that recruited me, her name is Kim. She used to be a biology teacher at my high school, at Arroyo High School. And her brother was my wrestling coach and my biology teacher. So after high school, I knew that I wanted to start some investments, and my wrestling coach told me, hey, my sister is an advisor. You should definitely link up with her. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely. That sounds so cool, having a financial advisor. And then I got to know her. We started my investments, and she asked me about school and what I wanted to do. And I told her I majored in finance. I was working at a bank and I hated it. And she just told me, like, are you tired of it? And I said, yes. She was like, do you want to work for yourself and be your own boss? I was like, yes. She's like, you want to make extra money on the side? I was like, yeah. She's like, have you ever thought about being a financial advisor? And I was like, yeah, I've actually been trying to, but I've had really bad experiences at these other brokerages. And she was like, well, hey, come try this out. She told me the same thing. It's either going to be the best opportunity of your life or it's going to be something that just wasn't for you. So I took a leap of faith. I did the background check. I started studying and I just started passing my exams. I passed my licenses and then I started working in the field and I absolutely loved it. And so, yeah, that's basically how I got recruited into this business. through, my wrestling coach's sister, who used to be a teacher and who left teaching because she saw so much flexibility in this industry. When you're a teacher, you work, like an 8 to 5, you're constantly busy. She, as an advisor, works whenever she wants to, whenever she has appointments. She has 2 sons and she's there for everything. She picks them up from school, drops them off. If they have a wrestling tournament, she's there. If they have something going on, back to school night, she can go. If there was student of the month going on at lunch at the elementary school, she could be there because her flexible was so free. She was there to be in her kids' lives because of this opportunity that she had. Question, Michael?
So do you have to be an advisor in order to get all of these like licenses and all that?
Well, once you get the licenses, you're technically a registered agent. So
Okay.
a lot of these terms are like synonymous, like investment broker, financial advisor, agent. They're all very similar. So I technically am a registered agent in the state of California. But you could also say that I'm a stockbroker. But
Okay.
once you have your licenses, then you're officially an agent or a stockbroker.
Okay.
Yeah. So it takes very little money to get into. And one thing I didn't cover was, the way I earn income, right? It's salary-based commissions. But the one thing about this job is that you earn residual income. And what that means is every month my clients put money into their investment accounts and I earn a small commission from that. So even clients that I've worked with years ago, I'm still earning money from them because they're putting money into their investment accounts every month. And then sometimes I set up investment accounts for companies for their retirement accounts. So every time their company pays them, right, their bi-monthly paycheck, I get paid a commission. So just to like reemphasize that, there are some of these clients that I started their investment accounts years ago, and I see them, every now and then, rarely. I give them some phone calls and see how they're doing. I meet with them, but where else can you earn money from work that I did years ago? And to this day, I'm still earning my commissions. And once I acquire like a large book of business and a lot of clients, the cash is just going to keep rolling in because people are going to keep contributing to their 401ks and their investment accounts. And, that's how I earn a residual income. And the woman that mentored me, it took her about 5 years to create the pension that would have took her a lifetime to get from teaching. She makes a residual income every month from clients that she's already met with years ago. And it would have took her 30, 35 years to earn that pension teaching. And it took 5 years to make her own pension. And it's gonna, my supervisor, she could probably stop working right now and earn, a 6-figure income easily, just because she's seen so many clients in the past.
Okay. And like for like any business, let's just say if I just wanted to open like any business, so I have to have all of these licenses?
So yeah, basically you park your licenses at a brokerage, and then technically, you have your own consulting business. Like I said, I don't have an office. I don't have like all these expenses that I pay for. All of my appointments are at people's houses. So yeah, like I said, it's going to take you about $125 to start. And then the brokerage will pay for all of your training courses and the exams. And then you're just on your own. You go out into the field, you have conversations, but nonetheless, you are always supported. You always have training. You always have people to refer to. You always have mentors, seasoned veterans, like I said. So yeah, really easy as an advisor. It's really easy to start your own business as opposed to other, businesses that need large quantities of money to get them started.
Okay, I get you.
Good questions. Would anybody else like to chime in? All right, well, I just want to thank everyone for attending. Those are some great questions. Make sure to sign in on the sign-in sheet and make sure to complete the assignment if you would like to get credit. 5 chats for 1 elective credit. And at 2, we will have, sorry, miss, we will have a nurse coming.